Somebody asked me a question the other day. They said, hey, Mac, are there any intangibles that I need to be aware of when I'm developing leaders? Now, that's an interesting question. And the answer is yes. And I love the fact that they ask this question because it shows that they're aware that when you're doing leadership development, there's a lot more going on than just what you say. There's a lot more we're teaching besides what we say. And we've got to be aware of those things that we're communicating, not just the intentional things we're communicating, but what are those things at a sub-level, at a subconscious level that we may be communicating to our learners that we may not even be aware of. We need to be aware of those things. So let me give you an example, because these things can really shape our learners in ways we don't want them to. So let me give you an example. Let's say that I'm meeting with 2 or 3 young leaders, and I'm talking to them about how to handle leadership conflict. And I'm giving them some leadership gold. I'm talking to them about, seek to understand before seeking to be understood. I'm talking to them about, striving for a win-win. I'm talking to them about seeking biblical reconciliation. And then in the midst of this training, I look at them and I say, let me tell you a story about a conflict I had with one of my previous bosses. And I begin to tell the story. And as I tell the story, trying to illustrate how to deal with conflict, all of a sudden, in the story, I subtly begin to drop hints about that individual and that my former boss, that his character wasn't real solid, and they know who I'm talking about. And I subtly begin to defame his character, or I begin to criticize him very openly. And I begin to do these things. Then all of a sudden, while I may be teaching some leadership gold as far as competencies, I'm communicating something in this lesson that is on a subconscious level, teaching them something. I'm actually teaching them it's okay to remain bitter. It's okay to be openly critical. It's okay to defame the character of others. I'm actually communicating things that I don't want to communicate to them because I'm not aware of these subconscious things that are coming out through my training. So it's so important that we're aware of not just what we communicate, but how we communicate when we're doing leadership development. I'll never forget 20 years ago, John Maxwell told a story at a conference that had a huge impact on me. It stuck with me all these years. He said that when he was a young pastor, he was so hungry to learn and grow as a leader. And so he sought out 10 different pastors around the country. They were pastors of 10 of the fastest growing churches in the country. And he wrote each one of them and he asked them for 1 hour of their time. He offered to pay them for 1 hour of their time just to sit and ask them questions and to learn from them. And so each one of those pastors agreed to meet with him. And none of them took his money either, which I thought was really great. But he's sitting there and he's asking them one-on-one. He's sitting there meeting with them one-on-one. He's got his legal pad of questions, 25 questions, and he's asking them questions. And he said he learned so much from that experience. Now, he said every time he tells his story, people in the audience raise their hand and they say, John, what were the questions you asked? What were the 20 questions? And I love how he says this. He passionately looks at the audience and says, no, you don't get it. It's not the questions that I asked. It's not even the answers they gave that impacted me so much. It was the spirit of the man. It was the spirit of the man that impacted me. And guys, I reflect on that story so often. I think back to that story and it makes me think, as a leadership developer, what are the things that people are learning from my spirit? What are the things that people are learning from my character that I may not even be aware of if I'm sitting there and I'm teaching and I'm pouring into them and I may be teaching great stuff about competencies, but what is it they're catching from my spirit? Like you, I want to be a leader and I want to be a man. I know if you're a woman, you want to be a woman who's a leader of character, who has a contagious character. And so whenever we train, we got to be aware of this subconscious level in our teaching to make sure that we're not teaching something that we're unintentionally, that we don't want to actually teach. So, you like me, you've probably been in the room with a leader and sat there and got gold from them and walked away and went, wow, I learned a lot And yes, I want to be able to lead the way they lead, but more so, I want to be the kind of man that man is. And so when you're doing leadership development, remember there is this sub-level of things going on when you're teaching. You're not only teaching what you know, but you are teaching who you are. So guys, thanks for joining me today. I hope this has been helpful. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you click the like button, share it with a friend, and I'll see you in the next video.